Welcome, everyone, to the Healing Method. I am so excited today to get to introduce you to a new friend of mine. I'm going to get you to meet Linda Lang, who is an emotional alchemist. She's also a water whisperer and a gifted healer with a lot of experience that she brings with her. She does a lot of transformation work, which really resonates with me around energy medicine and intuition, and really the power of the thought. And when we take time to change those thoughts, we can have new experiences and release limiting thoughts. She works a lot with emotion and blocked energy to help people come back into alignment. And she has a podcast too that we'll get to share more about a little bit later on. But here we are. Let me just take a moment here and get Linda talking with us. So Linda, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Oh, thank you, Gloria. It's wonderful to be here with you. I'm excited to share a little magic.
Good. So if you could start us off by sharing what has inspired you or continues to inspire you to keep doing what you are doing?
That's a good question. So I've been doing this for a long time, since the early 1980s. My own healing crisis demanded I look outside of my box of what was possible. And I found a lot of support coming through to me from the spirit realm to help guide me. And one of the things that was really apparent to me when I looked around at other people was how they almost aggravated their circumstances by the way they thought or the way they were perceiving their circumstances. And instead of making themselves making things better for themselves or trying to reach for something higher, they would just spiral down into this deep, deep pit. So one of the reasons why I do my work with other people is to help them see that they have a lot more impact on their life experience, that life's not happening to them, but for them and with them, so that they can create a life that brings them more joy and more fulfillment, more happiness.
Yeah. And so that really inspires you to continue to reach out or to be available. So it really started with your own experience. I wonder, are you able to share a little bit around what that looked like for you?
Oh gosh, yeah, and I got goosebumps actually. It's a miracle story, really. You know, I was 22 years old and I was married. I had a young baby, and I was diagnosed with a very rare kind of cancer that they didn't have great success at healing, let's say, in the traditional medical sense. The doctor wanted to amputate a leg, and I started to have all of these, I guess, you know, like a reoccurring dream, and I had a visitation. I had all of this kind of esoteric information coming into me that told me not to have the surgery. And so I didn't have the surgery. I walked away from the medical community. I learned how to listen to my body and listen to the messages and the guidance. And I essentially healed myself of cancer. This is the early 1980s. There was not a big mainstream alternative healthcare back then. It was kind of scary to step out of what was considered normal, or, you know, the thing that you'd have to do, and really take control of your own life and your own future. And it worked out perfectly well for me. You know, another person, maybe their path is to take the medical road. But for me, you know, all the guidance said, don't do it. And here I am today. I have both beautiful legs. I had no chemo, no radiation.
Wow.
And it was inspiring, right? It was inspiring to me to also shift how I looked at life and to really embrace the whole idea of our spiritual selves and
Mm.
a spiritual realm that supports us here while we're on this journey called life, right?
Yes. What really stands out to me there that I'd like to acknowledge is it was an experience, and it was a profound experience that really you were able to embody, which then empowered you through that inspiration to take action, even though there weren't others that were taking that type of action. So that's really powerful. It's a really strong faith journey, if you will.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of having to put your trust
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit world. And actually, I got a few quotes from the Bible that really, really helped me, which I can't remember what they are right now, but they really helped me to kind of center and think, you know, that there is an answer to all solutions. We just need to be open and receive it, essentially. And like I say, it worked out really well for me and it changed my life, right? Put me on this kind of metaphysical path. And I'm so grateful. Actually, there were so many blessings out of it. I wish everybody had the blessings without, the struggle and all of the things that went along on that journey. But
Yeah,
it was my path, and it helped make me who I am today.
exactly. Yeah. So what would you say really sets you, I don't know, not apart, but what makes you different from other healers that are out there?
Well, I think we all bring our own little unique flavor, but one of the things that I do, I'm kind of hardwired to really listen. And I don't just mean with my physical ears, but as an empath, I'm aware of the energy. I receive messages about, where energy is blocked in my clients' field, where it's not flowing or where it's distorting things. And even if you take aside the energy body and just listening to someone and then watching the energetic body's reaction to what they're saying, you can often find times where they say one thing and their energy body is saying, mm-mm, nope. I mean, it does make it very effective to kind of move that underlying energy to help people align with these thoughts and words that they're, hoping and wishing for, and bring them more alignment for their life. I mean, it's fascinating. We're all so fascinating, and on
Yes.
an energetic level, there are no lies or misperceptions or secrets even, it's all there somewhere, in the energy system.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of this energy system and the metaphysical, what is a common myth about you and or about this field of expertise that you've come across?
Oh, I think probably the thing that so many people think that they can, like, go to an energy healer once and poof, their lifetime of, limiting thoughts or holding on to resentments or whatever, habits and programming and
Mhm.
stuff they're holding on to, that, like, poof, it's just gone. And I don't want to discount the possibility of that happening, because I do believe in that kind of um, magical possibilities. I think it is possible. It's usually not the norm because people have attachments to those past things. And quite often, when you step on this path of alternative healing, it's a little bit like going to a physiotherapist or a dentist or a hairdresser that, you have to go again because there's more layers. Quite often, the unconscious mind is not quite willing to give everything up in that moment
Mhm.
that we've been holding on to so tightly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I find that very true in my field as well here. Um, as you're moving in your life, and as you said, you've been doing this for years. At this point in your career or in your path, what is the biggest challenge that you are facing at this time, and how are you choosing to navigate through that?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, actually. I think probably my biggest challenge is wondering how long I want to, kind of work this hard, like because I have a podcast. You mentioned my podcast, and I have a practice, and I have a membership group, and I do programs. I see one-on-one clients. So I have been toying over this year, should I retire or should I, slightly shift my business a little bit or let the podcast go? And I mean, every sign I receive, the podcast is going strong, and I keep getting information even about my business that rather than going broad, for
Mhm.
me, it's more fulfilling to go deeply with my clients. So, I don't
Yeah.
need 1,000 clients, right? I really don't. So I think that's the biggest awareness I received this year. And I'm trying to
Mm.
navigate that as it comes into unfoldment, that it's far better to have,
Mhm.
a few people that you can really guide and
Yeah.
help shift their life. And then they can go out and become lights for other people.
Oh, I love that. I love that replication. It's like a ripple in a pond that goes out. You work with water, so I'm really curious. Can you share it with our listeners or viewers a little bit more around what that even looks like?
Yeah, I absolutely can. So in 2015, I became aware that I carried a spiritual energy called the diamond ray. I actually have carried the lineage of a couple different energies, but the diamond ray hadn't been aware of my connection with it. So I've never taken any training or classes or been initiated into it. It's something that, was a gift from spirit. And when I became aware that I had that energy and I started working with it, probably about 6 months after that, I was in my kitchen and I heard this voice saying, "Why don't you remolecularize water?" And it just kind of stopped me in my track. I was like, who said that? Because I'm home alone and there's no such word as remolecularize. And I don't know how to do that. And then I just stepped up to the kitchen counter, a glass of water, and poof, I knew how to do it. And I could taste a difference in the water. It was so much more smooth, and I don't know how to explain it really, but it just tasted different. And so I experimented quite a bit with this energy, working with water. It works on video, it works on phone calls around the world, it works on the replay of a video. It's amazing. It's just really amazing.
And what does the water do?
Well, it structures specifically for the person that's going to be drinking the water. And I know this because I worked with a couple in Australia,
Mhm.
and they each brought a glass of water to a single call. They were in the same room. they switched glasses, and
Mm.
they didn't like the water for the other person, but their own water tasted so delicious to them. And
Mm.
then we experimented more, and I restructured a jug of water, and they poured 2 glasses out, and each glass tasted differently. So
Oh,
exactly what it does, when I'm channeling the energy, I'll often get like physical sensations or energetic sensations in my own energy field. So I can tell, maybe it's clearing a throat chakra, a heart chakra, whatever it's doing, balancing brain. But really, that person is getting what they need in that moment according to the intention that I set for doing the healing. So whether it's on, physical healing, mental healing, emotional healing, manifestation, whatever it's around, that person gets the energetic attunement that they need in that moment.
wow. That's pretty cool. I love hearing this. Which brings me right into the next question I wanted to ask. And this, I don't know if this is it. There might be something different that I haven't heard yet. But what is one thing that being a healer has taught you that you didn't expect? And I'm hearing that you didn't expect to hear this voice and this stepping into the water, but I'm imagining there might be another thing or two.
There's, I mean, so many things. There's so many things. I think probably the thing, the thing that always continues to amaze me and inspire me is how unique and fascinating every single person is. I mean, there
Hmm.
isn't a boring person. And when, you tap into the energy and you find this is linked to this, and then underneath is this, and you have no idea why that is. And and then there's such a big shift in their energy field, and they can
Hmm.
breathe better, or it's like a weight's been lifted off their shoulder. I remember doing a healing with a woman who was going through breast cancer treatment. And she was doing energy therapies on the side, and she booked a session with me. And I went back to a time, and we had a kind of specific time frame and a specific point on her body. And she said, "Oh my God, I remember that time I was on an airplane, and I had this pain underneath her shoulder blade, and it didn't go away for like years, and the medical community couldn't figure out what it was. And it turned out to be an emotion that she picked up from someone on the airplane that lodged under there, and we just pulled it out, and it was like gone. She could move, she could breathe differently. It was fascinating to think that, 15 years earlier, she ran into this energy that stuck onto her. I mean,
Wow.
it just amazes me how amazing we all are, and how amazing the world is, and the energy world is. Like, I'll often say to people, you don't really need drugs and alcohol, because there's so much fascinating things here on this earth. You don't need to try and create something,
Yeah.
mystical, or to ex um, what's the word, to escape your
Mhm.
life. You just need to open to the magic that's already here.
Yeah. Well, and being able to actually, I don't know, I want to just hold with so much care. There's so much that we don't know.
Yeah,
And to be able to have the opportunity to meet someone that can support us, to gently open up those windows and doors, to really
absolutely.
discover that it is available because we didn't know.
And I think that word gentle is really important. It's so
Mm.
important, because we don't need to be catapulted into,
Mm.
something we're not ready to handle in our consciousness. So I firmly believe that there is baby steps sometimes. Sometimes there's bigger steps that you get what you need according to your consciousness and according to your life purpose
Yeah.
and what you're willing to receive.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to shift our conversation just a little bit and become a little bit more personal, if that's all right with you. I'd like to know, what does your morning routine look like for you to attend to your self-care?
Yeah, that's always great fun, isn't it? I'd like to think that I get up and meditate for an hour in the morning, but I don't, because the morning is uh, my awake time, my active time. I'm really productive in the morning. I'm far better to do my meditation in the early evening or late afternoon, but in the
Mhm.
morning I'll get up, I'll sit with my husband, and we'll talk about our day a little bit. I'll sit and kind of tune in momentarily. When you start meditating and connecting with spirit, you don't need a long time to receive
Yeah.
inspiration. And in fact, I'll often receive inspiration in bed before I get up, that I'll have
Mhm.
an idea of, an email I need to send, or a name for my podcast episode I'm working on. So I tend to step into my work fairly early and then step
Mhm.
away from it and have a little bit later breakfast. I try and get a little qigong in the morning. I have a beautiful respect for qigong. It's an energy exercise, I might say. It moves energy. It's kind of like Tai Chi, except you're moving energy, and it's so good to clear your energy channels. It's so good for healers. I
Mm.
try and spend a little bit of time, even if it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I try and spend a little bit of time with that. And I guess I think the biggest thing I do in the morning is open up and embrace for
Mm.
whatever's coming my way that day.
Yeah. Wow. I love hearing that. It's very similar to mine. So, the other thing I'd love to hear about is, what's your favorite childhood memory?
Oh, yeah, my favorite childhood memory. I think maybe I used to spend a lot of time on a swing. I had like a rope swim, rope and a board, and tied onto a limb of a tree. And
Mhm.
I would spend hours and hours on that swing and looking up at the clouds and
Mm.
just feeling really connected with that kind of level. And
Mm.
then when I got tired of that, I would jump off my swing and land there was a little sand path right under it, and it was
Uh-huh.
the most beautiful, finest sand. You'd think you were at the beach, and I was nowhere near the beach. But that's the place that I really spent the most time. I mean, I have memories, Christmas and family and stuff, but I can go back to that swing and just be there, and it
Mhm.
just fills me with joy. And I have a little granddaughter who's not quite 4 yet, and she's exactly the same. She spends hours on her swing, so it
How
makes me
fun.
smile. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, well, talking, or shifting our attention a little bit to our world and where things are moving. I'm very curious, with your intuition and your connection with life energy. Where do you have a sense that our world is moving towards in the next several years?
Well, it's definitely shifting, and it's shifting a lot, which is a struggle for many people. So I really encourage everyone to really get grounded and be present and to appreciate their life and all the good things in their life. I think that there is some caution to spending too much time in the fear mode, because as we become fearful of the future or negative about the future, we're creating more of that. So, not that you have your head, kind of the ostrich, syndrome where you're not aware of what's happening. But I really do believe happiness is an inside job. And the more light that we can hold, the better it is for all of us. I do feel like there's a huge shift in the world, and it's needed. Really, it's needed because, from the 80s on, we became so obsessed with consumption and me as a society that it needs to shift. We need to bring compassion back into our mix and being the caretaker of the earth and of each other. Really, I really feel like we're moving into a time where we're going to start embracing more feminine qualities because we have to. We we need to if we are going to, you know, carry on this planet in a healthy way. We just can't continue this mass consumption.
Yeah.
That's what I feel, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So check and see, is there anything else you'd like to be able to, I don't know, to highlight, to bring to the attention that people may not have considered?
I think there's one more thing I'd like to say about your last question, and that is because there are a lot of light workers or spiritual people that are kind of stepping into that role of activist. I would also encourage them to do that from a place of light and not from a place of fear. I know my own spiritual guides have told me that it's not my place in this lifetime to be an activist. I'm more here to hold that energy and vibration of peace on the inside, of equilibrium, if you like, and really kind of help shine that out into the world because we need that too, right? We need something that kind of grounds us and centers us in these times of change. And with regards to anything else that I'd like to share with the listeners, I just really encourage you to know that, first of all, change doesn't have to be really hard. What makes it hard is when we're attached to the way things should be or the way things used to be. That if we embrace a little bit more flexibility, then we'll find more resilience. Nature is a hugely powerful healer. Spend time outside when you can, hug a tree, meditate, find like-minded souls that you can spend time with that can really help you feel connected in a time where there's so much upheaval and so many things that we thought were solid about our life, and a lot of it's shifting, and you are so much more resilient and flexible than you know. You're a master creator. You create every day. You create your life. You create your thoughts, your words, your actions. You can handle this.
Yeah. And with that, stepping into community with the planet, with the trees, with the animals, with all beings, that there's a strength that comes from that, an empowerment that ripples out, much like, what connected you and I, of recognizing one another, right? Recognizing ourselves in one another. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Exactly. And learning to listen and really paying attention to those messages, those intuitive or gut reactions that you have. And then it takes a little bit of wisdom to discern whether it's, past limiting beliefs or past emotional baggage coming up, or is this a message that this situation is not something I should partake in or something I should partake in, right? Like, because it can go both
Exactly.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so it can be really helpful to have some accompaniment as we're developing those skill sets. So how can our viewers reach out to connect with you?
well, absolutely. I'd love to hear from anyone. You can come and reach me through my website, which is thoughtchange.com. My spirit guides actually gave me that website URL. It was a time where it was everything was .com, and all the names were getting used up, and I literally tried for 3 weeks trying to find uh, a URL for my website, and everything was taken. And then one morning I heard Thought Change, and I'm like, oh, I like that. Makes sense.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, it was available. So there's a little bit of magic in there too. You certainly can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, or send me an email to linda@thoughtchange.com. And definitely come and check out my podcast. I have some amazing guests that I'm happy to share with you.
Yeah, and what is the name of your podcast?
The podcast is called Exploring the Mystical Side of Life, and you will find it on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on my website. The audios are available as well. Any
Perfect.
podcast platform you could check for.
Awesome. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today. I've learned so much myself. I think I'm going to be reaching out to you just on the aside as well to explore a few other things that will be beneficial for both of us.
It was absolutely my joy to be here with you and your guests, Gloria. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm happy to help wherever I can.
Great. So thank you everyone for being here on this journey with me here today, healing you. And I look forward to the next time.